Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Literary Hour with Professor K. Moses Nagbe and Jackie Sai. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us again. Prof, how are you?
I'm here. Nice to
Yes,
have all of us back.
yes. And thank you all for joining us on this warm Friday afternoon or evening. My camera is going in and out, so just be ready for a bumpy ride. Today, we're going to discuss the novels of, the writings of Wilton Sankawulo. And most of you know Wilton Sankawulo. And like I said last week, if you don't know the author, make it your duty to go and read about the author. But today we will discuss his works. We will introduce him, and I will introduce him using some of the words of our own K. Moses Nangbe, who wrote about some of his stories in and Nuggets. So, Prof, let's get on with his introduction. We will not read everything. Make it your duty to go and read about this Liberian writer. So, Prof, do you want to add anything before we start?
No,
Okay, Wilton Sankawulo was born on July 26, 1937, in Haidini, Bon County, and he was educated at the Lutheran Mission near Haidini. And then he moved on to Lofa County and attended the Lutheran
indeed.
Institute, right, Prof?
Yes.
And then on to Cuttington University College. He was later awarded a fellowship to study divinity, and he got a Master's of Divinity degree from the Theological Seminary at Berkeley, California. And he also did a Master's of Fine Arts at the University of Iowa. In fact, I learned that his thesis was The Rain and the Night. That was
Yeah.
the thesis for the MFA. He returned to Liberia and he worked at the Ministry of Information, Culture, and Tourism. And he also worked at the Press Bureau as the professor position of a director of overseas and press bureau. He maintained his teaching position at the University of Liberia and later at Cuttington as associate professor of English and literature. He established himself as a thinker, a writer, and an educator. Now, in the words of our own Professor Nangbe, Wilton Sangawolo's work fall in the tradition of those seeking to preserve the African past. His anthologies of folk tales are among some of the best coming out of Africa. He has written numerous essays on social and political issues. And before his death in 2009, he had published two novels, the first focusing on issues of intertribal wars and conflict resolution in days predating Liberia, and the second focusing on some of the cultural tribulations and triumphs that Liberia experienced up to the early 1970s. Indeed, the second novel is more focused on the perennial problem of class struggle and the intense tension between the two ethnocultural forces, African and Western, that have dominated the socio-economic and socio-political life in Liberia. So we will begin with Prof. Nangbe, who knew Wilton Sangawulo and will give us some tidbits before we go into the book. Prof?
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. At least the foundation you laid was very instructive enough. Yes, I knew Sankawulo very well. He and I, once in a while, would stroll either from his home or from my home to his. He loved drinking soup and Don Boy or Fufu, and the wife was always equal to the task. And you will hear him playing his some of his classics and on his typewriter. He was a hard-working person. He believed that it was important for one to augment whatever government was sending in with whatever this person could do for himself or herself. So he lived in Nuku Town for a while, and much of what he did there, he would take his wife and the family to old rubber trees and cut them down and parcel them for sale. And for a very long time, people knew him as Sankawulo the woodcutter. But on a more important note, as if that which we said is not important enough, Sankawulo was a traditionalist in, in terms of being steeped in the local culture. His home in Hindi, somewhere upper part of Kakata, was where a lot of his stories germinated from. And so if we want to talk about Sankawulo, we have to see him as someone who, through folklore, taught the best things about life in Africa. I would say that Sankawulo was a very important folklorist. I would also say that he was a very important writer in terms of bringing a lot of our lives in the back part of the Liberian society to the fore, as we've seen or as others will see in The Rain and the Night, sun down at dawn and all that, and then of course his latest work, something that was published,
Birds Are Singing.
The Birds Are Singing, which was published posthumously. Yeah.
So let's start with this, The Rain and the Night, because a lot of people know that book.
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that novelette.
yeah.
You know about the intertribal war between the Bela and the Bola.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So is this based on fact or no?
No, the thing about it is that it became an extension of history.
Okay.
It became an extension. So you call that loosely an historical novel.
Okay.
You call it an historical novel, yes.
So in this Rain and the Night with Kotuma, right?
Yes, Chief Boloka and
Goloka and Kotuma.
Kotuma was the son of the heir apparent of Bolokai. So when Boloka died, he after a while became the chief.
Yeah, and I think I read so many of them. I shouldn't mix them up. This the one that he refused to inherit the chief's wives.
Yes. He refused to inherit his father's wives because he himself he had his own, and yeah.
But it's interesting in this because tradition is so intertwined in this one. You know that, I mean, here you have the Pele, you have Kotuma trying to figure out how to win the war.
Yeah, that's right.
But his father left him a mandate: save the land.
Yeah, save the land.
Yeah,
and
right.
The save the land line was symbolic of the need for Kotuma to, because mind you now, Bolokai produced Kotuma.
Yes.
That is how the land was being saved at that time.
Yes.
But then the other aspect is that what if something happened to Kotuma? What will happen to the land? So his mandate was more of make sure you produce an heir, make sure you produce a son who would kind of continue the line, the Bolokai line. That's what that mandate was.
And the interesting thing is also that like we've seen in so many of the novels, women had their own agency. Because Lopu was doing her own thing.
Yeah, yes. Of course, you will not blame her for that because actually, again, it's one of those things. Kotuma was caught up in the idea of the war.
Yes.
Because if the Pele people were defeated, then actually they will not have land. They will not have our state. Therefore, his main focus, his preoccupation had to be with the land. So that is all the reason why that took up much of his time, and that goes on to speak about the trials and tribulations of leadership that Kotuma faced at the time.
But in the end, they made peace. Kotuma made peace. Yes.
That was very much important, because it was at that time now, it was the Gola that initiated the peace.
Yes.
Because the new chief now, he towards the end of the year came and said, well, we've come to say that war is useless, and therefore, and then what did Kotuma say? Out of the diplomacy, out of the diligence of diplomacy, he said, in fact, you have what? You have won the war. You have become victorious. The very fact that we should have gone forth to draw you into the picture, but you have come. You have initiated the peace, and therefore, actually, you must be honored for whatever you did to bring your entourage to kind of come to celebrate with us.
And one of the funny things is that I found it interesting that the witch doctor, or that I mean, this is just for me, that the witch doctor is able to do trial by ordeal, right?
Yeah.
But yet the witch doctor is able to give you medicine, so you pass it. You can pass the test.
The antidote, yes. The antidote, yes.
How is that?
But the thing about here, you see, human nature is at work, right? The Zoe that comes in, it's human nature at work.
Yes.
In other words, first of all, the wife is obviously a woman,
Yes.
and the Zoe is a woman, and so there is a kind of a shared solidarity in that process, even though it is not clearly stated. But one can read between lines and say, well, okay, Zoes normally are relatively old, and this young person is anticipating getting in trouble, and therefore there has to be that defense line to say, well, look, as if to say, well, my child, what has not happened in the world? Come, let me be of help to you in that sort of a thing. You see. So these things happen. These things happen. But wait a minute now. And in your so-called Western world, and when an employee is in dire stripe and what have you, and the person can say, "I beg you, write me a note and let me go and present it." So,
Yeah.
something of that sort.
But Prof, if they say write a note, they're not going to the boss to write a note. So that's why I felt funny that she went to the same witch doctor and she passed. She passed the trial by error.
Yeah.
I mean by ordeal. She passed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But if we look at Sankawulo's writings, it seems as if his earlier writings dealt more with folklore than the later ones. The later ones, there's element of traditional life.
Yeah.
I mean, marriage. What is it called? Marriage of wisdom.
Marriage of wisdom, and then why nobody knows when he.
Why nobody knows when he would die?
Those are
Yeah.
two major folklore. I mean, folklore expressions there.
Yeah. But if you look at what is it called? Sundown at dawn. This is almost, if we were to place it in the literary canon, the Liberian, it could also be a protest literature, because sundown, don't you agree or no? You don't agree?
No. I mean, these are when you get to the novels, then you need to ask yourself the question, more of a repeat of the question, what sources have informed the writings of the African writer? What sources? There you will see elements of folklore. There you will see elements of Western religion, Islam, as well as Christianity. And then you will see elements of protest.
Yes.
Elements of protest. And therefore, you find out that in the novels, because of the canvas that is wide enough to take on so many things, it is in the novels we find a conglomeration of all those sources coming together.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah,
as you said.
it keeps, yeah. So yeah, there's a conglomeration, but if you look at Sundown at Dawn, right? Whereas The Ring in the Night took place in
pre-literate Liberia, or prehistoric Liberia, whatever.
And traditional, right? If you look at okay, maybe do you want to give us a synopsis of Sundown at Dawn? So Joseph Dennis, not Joseph, yes, what's his name?
Zoran.
Yeah.
Zoran, yeah, happened to be the father had a stint with Western life because he lived with a civilized family.
Yes.
But he wasn't treated well, as you find a lot of those stories. And so he left and went back. So you will say that the father was more like a functional illiterate, that sort of a thing. Okay, he had a basic education. And then so he decided at some point that his son Zoran had come of age now and would be going to school. But that was not actually what the peers, Zoran's peers, were expected to have him go to Western school, especially given the fact that he hadn't been initiated.
Yes.
Going through Poro and all that. But anyway, he was interested in having the son go to school and not participate in the Poro. But then he advised him. He said, "Well, because we said that you shouldn't participate in Poro, doesn't mean that you should disrespect tradition. But don't make fun of them and what have you. Give them whatever due respect. But we feel that there is a future for you." Well, he went through his little obstacles here and there, but he proved to be a determined young man, especially with the support of the father. And so while a lot of his peers who had decided to go to school too, Western school, he did well. And so that his peers fell by the wayside, but he continued until he was able to complete Lutheran LTI. Lutheran, what is that? LTI.
Yeah, LTI. What's it? Dogba.
Yes.
So Dogba, when he so reading this novel, I felt like it was more like the imprisoned native.
Yeah.
I needed more.
Okay.
Because although I kept saying, "Oh, we need a copy of this book," we know the story. And if you look at Sundown at Dawn, you see also the conflict between the rural and the urban.
Yeah.
Between the Western and the traditional.
Yeah.
So Dogba goes and lives with the Genesis, right? Right? It was Dogba, and he was ill-treated, but his name his name was changed though. I think Joseph Dennis, right?
Yes.
So
as
when
he went through all that. Because there was an old man in the home of the Dennises, who swore to everything that anyone who entered the house had to change his name to a Dennis.
Yeah.
No, nobody. Yeah, that's right.
But then I think when his father died and he went back home, he took his degree and he put it on a grave, and then changed his name back to Dokba Senfudin or
Yeah.
what is it, Senfudin, right?
Mhm.
But Dokba's story ends badly, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Dokba's story ends badly because what's his name? Baghdad, Isaac Baghdad, is that his name? Yeah, lies on him.
Mhm.
One thing is that Dokba used to wear the beads around his waist. Remember?
Yeah, that was when he was much younger.
Yes, but when he started to wear the beads at the school,
Mhm.
people at the school said, "Oh, but this guy is witchcraft
Mhm.
wearing," because the school. Don't forget, the school was a Christian school.
Yeah, yeah, that was in his elementary school days.
Yes,
Mhm.
but yeah, again, you see the conflict
Mhm.
between the traditional and the Western
Yeah. Mhm.
thing. So okay, he wore the beads, but when he decided to build his school, right? It's Dokba, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've read so many of them. I hope they are not
Mhm.
meshing together.
Mhm.
But when Dokba wanted to build a school, they gave him another place to build the school, and he said no, he wanted to build a school in his town.
Yes.
But he got into conflict with the senator.
Yes, but then it started with his peers now, because when he came of age, and there was a realization that his peers, he had outrun his peers, so the jealousy was there. And then so when he returned home and wanted to establish uh, some turf for himself, there was a friction, and it was that friction that was exploited by the senator. They said this functional illiterate, who they don't want any competition, and so was trying as much as possible to kind of eliminate his progress.
Okay, but the way they eliminated it was to say that the school was a breeding ground
Yeah,
for,
yes,
to
communism and
overthrow
all
the
this.
government.
Yes, that's right. So you can see that actually it was around Tubman's time.
Yes.
It was around Tubman's time where, even though there were knowledgeable people out there, there were, especially coming from the traditional sector, the local indigenous sector, people were not educated, and therefore could be easily manipulated, and they will have to manipulate things and destroy those who wanted to kind of uh, stand strong in the competition,
Yeah,
political competition.
because when he built the school and they said that, oh, this guy, he's using the school as a breeding ground for insurrection.
Hmm.
The president said to the senator, this is happening in your district. Go and deal with it.
Yeah, that's right.
So of course Dogba ends up in jail, and Pastor Isaac Bada ends up
Yes,
in jail
yes.
also. Yeah. So if we are looking at it, if we're trying to situate a sundown at dawn, it will be protest literature, or am I reading it wrong?
Yes, yes. As I was saying, those things
Yes.
in the context of a novel has a broad canvas, and
Yes.
therefore the painter, assuming that we're talking about the writer, the painter has a wide territory wherein a lot of things can be done, and therefore, yes, that novel is an example of protest literature. Of course, the problem that others have with it, and probably myself would, is that he he wrote it at a time when the expectations were like mellow. In other words, if he had written it at a time when things were hot in the country, uh, Tubman time or part of Tubman's time, people would have given that novel high marks, as we will talk about Ngugi wa Thiong'o's novels and what have you. But of course, the best thing is that he had the time to write such a novel, and therefore it has become part of our protest literature.
So if we look at Sankawulo as a folklorist, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Dennis can put the second slide, right, and we say folklore is almost an umbrella, right,
Mm-hmm.
of folk tales,
Yeah.
of myth and legends, right?
Yeah. Folklore. Yeah,
I mean
that's
folklore.
right.
Sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
folklore.
folklore. You have that. Yeah, folk songs, folk tales. Yeah, fairy tales. Yeah, tall tales, ballads. Yes, that's right. You know
But
the
Prof,
folk. Mm-hmm.
no, I don't want to be contrary here. I'm sorry, the sun is giving me a difficult. I don't want to be contrary here. But if you look at Sankawulo as a folklorist, right?
Mm-hmm.
In his earlier works,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the Marriage of Wisdom,
Yeah.
nobody knows when he would die,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Uh-huh.
And then in his other works, he's using some traditional words, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, but besides using that, talking about the Poro and the Sandy society, and talking about, you know, the witchcraft or something, what makes him a folklorist?
What what makes him a folklorist is he becomes a channel. He becomes a
Okay.
channel through which the stories of old are told.
Okay.
So he is so the very fact that he is a channel through which the stories are told, he is a folklorist. Yes, traits. He carries the traits because Halingi, when he talks about Halingi as being the one who sacrificed, as being the one who sacrificed, so that his people will be liberated. That is an element of folklore. You see,
Not legend. What is legend, right? It's a
yes, yeah,
legend. Okay. Okay.
you talk about folklore, and legend is
Yeah.
part of folklore.
Okay.
Because legend, as we know by now, legend kind of evolves from some tiny historical fact, so that the people over time blow it up and it becomes something. Look at the urban legend, which is Binu Sudan.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You hear about, but even people will talk about what is this guy? He used to be on the fantasy island in Morovia itself. Okay, so these people did exist, but then they blow. Even if you get to the epic Beowulf, if you
Pure
get to
wolf.
the
Yes.
epic Beowulf, okay, they find out that somehow in the distant past, someone may have had some strength, and yet over time, because people kind of enjoyed what he did with his strength and what have you, they build layers and layers of narratives over it, and today we have Beowulf. So that's the structure of a legend. A legend grows from a tiny historical fact into something, as opposed to myth, which has to do with natural forces acting upon human beings and what have you, the gods and goddesses and all that.
Okay. Do you think that his work as a politician influenced his last novel in any way?
The thing about it is that actually, if Sankawulo were to stand before us today, Sankawulo will not call himself a politician, really.
Okay.
Easy because they understanding the power play in society and providing strategies and getting all merged up in all that kind of a thing. That was not Wilton Sankawulo. So his major thing was that he was a writer, he was a folklorist, and he was a thinker. So all those things were eventually brought together, especially in his last books.
Okay. So in a tradition of S. Jangaba Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote the history of I think the Gola, the history,
Mm-hmm.
and he did a lot about stories from these different groups.
Yes, local
So
groups.
so Jangaba Johnson was
Mhm.
just
A folklorist.
folklorist, but whereas Wilton Sankawulo
Mhm.
couches folklore in stories,
Yes. Okay.
right?
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So we know about Kotuma, we know about Chief Bolokai, but
We
but
know
in
about
reading,
mm-hmm.
yeah, in reading their stories, in reading Dokpa's story, in reading Lopu's story, we are learning about the traditions and the values that hold this group together. Johnson is saying, look, yes, the story, finish.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not here to put it in no plot.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this straightforward. This is it. So you can actually use elements of Jangaba Johnson's pieces and write a story.
Yeah.
Use it as a setting in which to write your story.
Okay, like a foundation. Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, like a foundation. Yeah. So let's go back to the women in the night, right? So we talked last time we talked about the women with Vamba Vamba, right? We talk about Bound to Secrecy, the book that I really like, and the strong women. And then we talk about Guina Pao, Love in Ebony, and we say that these women were very strong women. They were feminists before feminist was the thing. You know, they were strong. Now look at the women in, let's say, the reading at night. Or do you want to discuss women in other?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reading at night, right? We have what's her name? Yembeli.
Who is the only daughter? Who is being prepared to go into Sunday?
Yeah. Then we had Lopu.
Lopu. Yeah.
Then we have another woman. Her name starts with P. Poeleng.
Yeah.
Yes.
The one who
gives him the baby.
He will have initiated and then of course ran away for a while.
Yeah. So Lopu, of course, is the one who is unfaithful. And Lopu.
Well, I mean, to say that really, it's well, we can apply whatever names we want to apply, but she did that out of necessity.
Yeah, so we have Kolu. Kolu is a good wife.
Kolu, yeah.
Right? And Poeleng.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lopu says, I'm not going to sit around and wait for
yes.
So Lopu goes and finds herself a boyfriend, but when Kotuma comes into the room, Lopu's not there.
Yes, okay. And that becomes
I'm just trying to explain it to those who haven't read the book. So
okay.
So then when Lopu comes, he asks Lopu, where are you? Where have you been? And Lopu says, oh, I haven't been anywhere. And he says, oh, you've been unfaithful. Right? So I'm going to take you to the witch doctor so you can to me that you haven't slept with anybody. But of course, Lopu uses her own and Lopu gets to the witch doctor first and tells the witch doctor, look, I have to go do trial by ordeal.
Yeah.
So the witch doctor gives Lopu medicine.
As an antidote.
And Lopu passes the test. Lopu says, you see, I was not faithful. And I found it funny that the person who was administering the medicine is the same person who gave Lopu the antidote. So yeah, but all in all, as I said when we were discussing Vamba's book, the women even in a traditional setting, they are not meek and mild women. They have their own parallel structures of power.
Yeah.
They have their own agency in certain things.
And that's a very important, as I said the last time that's a very important observation you are making over there. They are not docile as people think they are in our culture. They know their turf.
Yes.
And when time comes to possess whatever they need to possess, they do possess it in a very when she goes out there, she doesn't say, I didn't do anything, but they want to punish me. No, she said, I did something. I did something, and this is why I did it.
Yeah.
No, but I need help.
Yes.
And this is someone who has agency, someone who has agency has confidence. Someone who has agency has confidence. And that is the confidence that she established right there. And once she established that, then the Zoe said, well, look, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And it's important to note that these women, although they have their own authority, they are very careful in certain instances
Mhm.
not to disrupt the state.
Yes, that's it.
Yes, because we had discussed long ago characteristics of African communities,
Yes,
that it is a cohesive one.
yes.
People who tend to disrupt this cohesion suffer the consequences.
And Jackie, to add to that, that is what comes out in the birds are singing.
Yes.
The birds are singing. When the old man tells his little boy, okay, his nephew, who all this time
Yeah.
had known himself as the son of the old
Their
man.
son. Yeah.
Yes, he points out that a society is a bigger thing. A society is a bigger thing, and yet there are layers. You've got to respect those layers. If you are entering this society and that society and the other society, those are pillars of the larger society. And
Yes.
you have to respect that unless you see the significance of the layers that are pillars of that larger society, then definitely not all too many things are going to work in your life and work in the life of the society. Unfortunately, in the so-called modern society we have, when we see government, that is the only thing we see. Those layers, those power forces that are supposed to keep the greater society together, if they are not constructed very well, if they are not understood very well, then definitely nothing concrete, nothing significant can be achieved.
Yeah, but the birds are singing.
Mhm.
If you look at it, the uncle tells him, "I'm not really your father," right?
Yes, later on, yes.
Yeah. Say your father was killed by, I think, a
Uh-huh.
crocodile or alligator,
Yeah, the crocodile.
and your mother died in child.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. But yet, isn't it this uncle who wants to sacrifice him?
Well, those things are things of mystery. Sometimes we have to go a little deeper to fully understand what the consequences might be, or what meaning we can give to them. Yet,
Yeah.
did it work out?
No.
Uh-huh.
But also, the birds are singing when they tell the mother, right,
Mhm.
that we are going to sacrifice, I think, Corley, his name is,
Yes,
and she faints, right?
yes,
Yes, but they tell her that for the society, for this
yes,
community, he must
yes,
be sacrificed.
yes.
So the entire town comes to her for her to come to grips
With the reality.
that it must be done, right?
Mhm.
Again, we see that the community is paramount.
The society, the community is paramount. Yes, the
Yes,
individual lives at the mercy of the community.
of the
Yes.
community. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. So I think if you look at sundown at dawn, Sankawulo decided to situate his novel in urban and rural.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then again, and this is something. It seems as if in the African novel there is colonization and tradition, right?
Mm-hmm.
At odds with each other, like in
Yeah.
fall apart.
Mm.
Liberia has a unique vis-a-vis. They have a unique friction,
Yeah.
that of the settler and the traditional.
Yeah.
And if you look at it in this novel, and I may be wrong, Prof, but let me just kind of like, in this novel, we see that it is always almost like every time you leave the rural and you come to the urban,
Mm-hmm.
to bad things before you, but
Mm-hmm.
the people in the urban are bad. You know, it's always like, oh, they mistreated us. They don't like us because here is Dogba in the Genesis household, right?
Yeah.
And well, we don't know, but he did change his name back.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back to visit the Genesis, and he finds out that Caesar, is this his name, Caesar?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Caesar has gone to America to stay,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he feels very let down and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that it's almost like Liberia has its own unique identifier,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the tension between the settlers and the traditionals, right? There
Mm-hmm.
is this friction, and it would seem to me that there must be a novel written. If not, if it hasn't been written, it must be written that these two groups, there must be something that they forge a friendship. Because if you remember Vamba said that in the land of my fathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
George, I think his name is George. He comes friends with I think hiding. I
Mm-hmm.
forgot his name, Hayden, but Hayden dies at the end,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they became friends. But I'm saying, besides Vamba's novel, do you see any novel written where there's a friendship between the settler and the traditional people?
Mm-hmm. No,
Is
the thing about it is that what is the role of the writer?
to reflect reality.
Yeah, to
Sometimes,
again, it depends on whether you are writing from a romantic, a fantasy type of thing, or a
realist.
or yes, or for instance, in my latest work, which is uh, you know, where you talk about the the son of the village boy, what have you, it is I am interested in seeing the configuration of both the settler sector and the native sector to forge a new beginning, and move forward, because war or unusual tension is not going to save a country. So yes, you can have the best of times and the worst of times. It should be able to be pointed towards a particular direction where all forces of war are going to what eventually face off, and forces of peace will come into the picture and do likewise, and try as much as possible to a kind of sustain a society in which posterity is, at least for once. Because think about the world, Jackie. Think about the world. So many wars have been fought, and if people continued in the state of warfare, we will never have gotten to the point of progress as we have it, even though the progress itself has so many points at which tension will rise and fall, and rise and fall. That is the reality of life if you want to prepare your audience to know that there are so many conflicts that exist, and yet, in spite of those conflicts, human progress is possible. That is, I think, that is the specific novel that is going to sustain where the world for better days to come. So, short of the long is not only in Liberia, and what we see in that occurs in Liberia is a macrocosm of what happens in the larger world. See China and America. See Putin's Russia and America. See all these forces here and there, and yet, with all that's happening, and one of the stories that I've often liked to talk about, or always think about, is even in the heart of Cold War, America and the Soviet Union were sending people up in space. And those people that were sent out there were always what? Were always working together. There has to be a point in our lives that, war should not have the best part of us. Conflict should not have the best part of us. And I think every now and then, I know the point you were coming from when you said, when will we have a novel to talk about, irrespective of the conflicts? This is what we can make of our lives. I think, of course, especially since we ourselves, we in Liberia tasted a war, I think, and we saw the devastation of war, we saw the kind of nonsense of war. I think it is incumbent upon us to make sure that days ahead should be rather bright than bleak.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just saying that, if we're talking about the characteristics of the Liberian novel or the Liberian in the writings that's coming out, at the time it's about this conflict, this yin and yang,
Yeah.
always pulling one side or the other, and then always one side must win. There is almost always no coexistence, harmonious coexistence.
Yes.
Always this how do you call it, tiptoeing?
Yeah.
This tiptoeing, this unsteady, unsteady balance of tolerate. We would tolerate each other, and I was just thinking that it would be great if we have a novel that would, like you say, be idealistic, but it would be aspirational, something we hope to reach out to. The thing that I saw that really intrigued me, Prof, is this thing of, I mean, I know that now it's almost like, this dark force, this, Ayekwe Ama says it's a mystical connection, right, to the land and to the people. But I found it very interesting that the people in almost all of Sankawulo's novels or things, they coexisted with witchcraft. If you look at The Rain in the Night, I think Kolu, right? Kolu gave birth to twin boys for Kotuma, right? But the twin boys died. And then they said, oh, it's witchcraft. Lopu is unfaithful, so go to the witch doctor. But the way it is portrayed is like a part of the society. There is no condemnation. There is no, this is not so. This is the way things are. This is the way it is. So we are going to go and do this. This reflection of the society, right? As no, this is not a dark force. This is a force that is present. It may lay claim to a higher power. But it is a device that we use for our purpose. It is almost like a standard of law. It creates order in a society. How do you view this?
The thing about it is that one needs to understand that in the traditional setting, there are two forces that are operating. Yes. One is the visible force, and the other is the invisible force.
Yes.
Within the context of the invisible force, that's where you find the mystical order, of things. And we might give what is called we might give a different name and set of phrases to these things. Look, every society has its mystical forces, whether they are really mystical, what have you. Every society has its underlying forces. In the Western world, we talk about CIA, we talk about FBI, and all those things there. It is not only there. It is not only there that we will say yes because that Western, therefore, is no. Because there are certain things that CIA does that never so easily come to light. The same thing about FBI. So, in other words, there has to be a set of, we talk about the myth complex. In sociology, you talk about the myth complex. There are certain forces that are supposed to be there, whether sometimes they embarrass society and what have you. There are certain forces that have to be there to keep certain actors and certain actors in check and what have you. So it's so people, as they grow up, people get to know that, well, these things are there, at some point. Yes, they are for our own good, but sometimes if they are done in excess, if the excesses are exposed, then of course they are dealt with. The same thing as I was saying about CIA and what have you. When the CIA crosses a line, definitely the media is allowed to just kind of curb their excesses and what have you. And even so that is when you talk about, what do you call it, necessary evil and what have you, sometimes that's where it goes. Let me just say this: I am not, by this statement I'm making, saying that these things are totally justified and what have you. I am simply saying that these are realities that are present in all societies, and sometimes it is through religion, Islam, Christianity, and what have you. Sometimes it's through religion and what have you. Sometimes it is through other forces that society has destined the forces to be.
Yeah, sort of like Opus Dei or the Masonic craft,
Okay.
Like this order, yeah.
So
yeah.
actually, it's you see, the thing about life, my friend, is that human beings want to have unrestrained freedom to do whatever they want to do, and nothing should happen to them. And probably generations before and what I say, no, this cannot be. There has to be a line, call it red line, whatever. There has to be a line drawn so that young people, or some other older people, do not get reckless about what is happening in our societies. If anybody went to work and kept on killing and other, and somebody has to say, no, 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 no. Even in the area of the invisible forces, even in the area of the mystical forces and what have you, there are certain no-go zones. Even if you are a witch, and if you are, I grew up in rural Liberia. If you are a witch, if your witchery gets to a point where it becomes intolerable, somebody or some group has to bring you to a stop. Say, no, you cannot continue this. We will not allow you to do this. Like if this person, if someone had, if the town has a farmland and there's a person who is so dark as to want to kind of destroy the grains before they've come to a point of harvest. Some group has to say no, and that is where Sankawulo and all those things come into the picture.
Yeah, and comments, I would like to say that in almost all of the novels, the African novels, well, most of, whenever you, like you said, Prof, whenever you go against that no-go zone,
yes,
there is disastrous consequences.
Yes,
because you have shaken, or you've tried to shake the foundation.
The very foundation. You have to disrupt the very foundation of the, and that is not tolerable.
Yeah. So we'll take a break, and then we'll just a little brief break, and then we will read the comments of, if people are watching, so we can read their comments.
All right.
Right. So we can take, yeah, okay.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
So do we have any comments from our viewers before we continue? Good evening, Henry passed away. Good evening. Oh, says Francis, good evening, says Francis. I read one of his books, Marriage of Wisdom, that's Wilton Sankawulo, in elementary school. And one of my favorite stories was, It Could Be You Too. I'm commonly known as Sabato Dimle from Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. Hello, Anthony Sabato. Wilton is one of Liberia's dynamic sons. Yes, Isa Kofa, that is true. Francis Wilson says the so-called unusual tension speaks to the very unique temperament of the Liberian people, whether in the past or now, as we as Liberians have an attitude of entitlement and the scourge of ungratefulness that cannot be taken apart right now in this hour. But it is definitely a conversation that needs to be had. Okay, says Francis. Gonli says he's watching from New Jersey. Thank you. And Anthony and Sabato is also watching from New Jersey. Yes, Emmanuel Jackson is watching from Boston. Our faithful viewers. Thank you all for watching. And as I said, if you've written a book, if there's something that you would really like to discuss, please send it to focusonliberia@gmail.com so we can discuss it. Don't forget to send us your essay, what Liberia means to me. Please, we need more essays, so it can be in the form of a letter to Liberia, a poem, an angry piece, a tirade, and whatever it is, you can please send it so we can have it ready for July 26th. That would be very nice. So continuing on with Wilton Sankawulo, Prof. Clementine Brewer said, I'd like to talk to you too, Liberians. I'm applying for a grant to produce and provide media content to the Liberian people in Liberia. Please reach out to me. Thank you, Clementine Brewer. Watching from San Diego, California, Harlem. Thank you so much for watching. So, Prof, one of the things I wanted to say was, we've discussed Wilton Sankawulo as a writer, a folklorist. How did he become a politician?
That's what I'm saying. There are certain things that are accidental to people's lives and what have you. And one of the things we have to remember in life is that to speak about something is not the same as being a kind of fit for that thing. This is what I mean. You might have read stories or you might have had some interactions, and you can talk about piloting, aviation. And if you are gifted with words, you paint pictures here and there, someone will say, well, I think if we put this man in the cockpit, he's going to, fly the plane here and there. So what, in the case of a writer can have all these numerous ideas about how to a kind of transform society and what have you. But if that person, let us even assume that this person has all the skills and what have you, to lead a country is not by one person. One person cannot do that. You can have a good leader and have a corrupt system, and therefore that leader who might be a hot coal might eventually get consumed by the dark forces and what have you, and therefore doesn't deliver. So if a person is putting out these strategies and you say, I think we can make this person the president, or we can make this person the chairman, that is the thing that happened in the case of Sankawulo. You see, so we have all these ideas, and when there came a tension, a kind of a kind of stall in whatever peace that needed to come to Liberia, Bishop Francis and a few others got together and suggested the name of Wilton Sankawulo. The story is that he was even, I think, kind of splitting wool here and there when the news got to him that my man, you sitting down here, you are wanted in, I think, Ghana. Yes, you are wanted in Ghana. You are the next chairman of the council. He said, "Don't tell me that your nonsense they're talking about." So right there, actually, he had a folkloric experience. He had what I call a folkloric experience. The idea that sometimes things happen by magic. The idea that things happen in sudden flight. You know, when it was around the time that Ruth Perry's time was going. That's when they went for the second one, so that they will see what to be done. You know, so Sankawulo had nothing. I mean, realistically, he had nothing to do with that thing. He was basically doing his research, doing his writing, and what have you. And then they just lifted him from that place there, and the rest of it is now history. So when he got there, that's the thing about politics. That's the thing about politics. It's like people on the football field. If you are not on the football field, you are insulting the person who is kicking this ball this way and that way. Look at that stupid man. Look at how he's kicking that ball. If I'm on the field, when they put you on the field, you will what? Like they say in Liberia, you cannot produce. You cannot produce fusa. You can't produce anything. You know. So because you have to tackle so many people before you get to the mouth of the goal. And that's the same thing about look at we are all those people over there. Look at all the thing. Oh, Ellen doing this. Look at even Ellen Johnson selling all the things she said with top about time and what have you. She got over there. You know what significant thing? I know her fans will say, well, what am I talking about? Look at all the good things that Ellen Johnson said. The same thing with a fan will say, well, look at it now with me. Look at all the things we are there. Or you go to the junction of EAWA roads and see what is done. Tell me for God's sake, development is just buildings. Look, I don't know whether you heard about CB Lawson, huh? You know CB Lawson.
Victor. Victor Lawson.
Only child. You know, whatever happened to the lady, whatever didn't happen to her, to hear that, I think yesterday or something like that, she dropped and she died. You know, so health and all those things are part and parcel of the whole thing. So what I'm saying in essence is that we are talking about Sankawulo and how he got into he got drawn into that. Because he was writing about, he had this essay, this collection of essays titled "What My Country Needs Today." What my country needs today, you know. And so he wrote those things, and the ideas, some of them were good. And people said, well, if this man has a recipe for good government, a recipe for good leadership, then we can't bring him in. Other people can bring him in. So let's bring him in. But I can bet that when Sankawulo got over there, he was stupefied. Especially, among all these warring factions and all that kind of thing. And then he got to the point of calling for him, Taylor was his appeal and all that kind of thing. That when he got to he could not, he could not handle what a set of forces were out there. And you cannot blame him. You cannot. I don't want to blame him. You cannot blame that. In wartime, probably if it was during peacetime, maybe he would have made an impact. But getting among the hounds, what could he have done? And therefore, if you want to talk about the legacy of Sankawulo, it's not going to be in politics. It's not going to be in politics. From the very when the speech he gave at the inauguration, say, I know what it means to be poor. I know what it means to go without food and other kind of thing. Well, in the end, it became a laughing stock. Oh, the message he knew everything about here now, but he alone could not do the thing. As we say about maybe the what the woman need again, man.
Ruth Perry?
No, I'm not talking about Ruth Perry. I'm talking about your Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, so maybe certain people go into these things, especially when they have long for them for a good while. Maybe they go in there with good intentions, but when they get there, the people they fall among, the team, sometimes the team creates itself. They don't create a team, the team creates itself. And once the team creates itself and they fall there, many of them, the members of that team, they just go there to just feast upon the meat of the thing over there, all that kind of stuff. So the Sankawulo experience, I would not really place a politician. Something I would not place Sankawulo's attributes. I will not make that one of Sankawulo's attributes. He was a writer and a good writer at that. I mean, he had a way with language and everything, and that sort of a thing.
So as you're saying, he liked the community to
Mhm. Yeah.
as chief Kotuma,
Yes.
like some of the others who falling by the wayside.
Yes.
No community to
Yes.
support him.
Mhm.
But and like you say, he was chosen.
Mhm.
And whether or not he rose up to the
Yes.
we say that he's known for his writings.
Yes. He didn't rise
For
up
his
to the
writing.
occasion when it came to politics. He didn't rise up to that occasion.
He's known for his
And-
writing, and whether or not his stint
Mhm.
in politics
Mhm.
when the birds are singing,
Mhm.
we do know that this was his last novel, and will be interesting to review it and see if really it's so different from Sundown and Dawn, and why is it different at Sundown and Dawn. But we pay homage to him.
Yes.
Being one of Liberia's
Foremost writers.
and like we say, folklorists.
Mhm.
And of course, we are very sad to hear of the death of Professor Lawson's, is it daughter?
Yeah, daughter. Yes.
Professor Victor Lawson was a professor in the English department.
He served as chair of the English department as well.
Yes, and he taught me, as well as Prof. Nagbe taught me as well. Very sad to learn the death of his child. And we our condolences to the family. Yes. So we've come to the end of another discussion. And again, we will ask you to please send us your essays. Francis Wilson says, when the bad things outweigh the good things, the noise begins. Couldn't agree more. And we will say to you that if there are books you would like to discuss, if you've written a book and you want to discuss it, if you want us to discuss things that pertain to Liberia, we will do so. We are going to continue looking at letters and writings coming out of Liberia. We're going to situate it in African literature. We're going to discuss African literature and Liberian literature. And if we're discussing other world's literature, it is because it is pertinent to African literature. We want to thank you for joining us again for another edition of the Literary Hour. We thank you. We know that sometimes it's difficult to have free time, but we want to thank you. And we always say that whether you come to listen, whether you come to write comments that whether you disagree or you don't agree with us, we all are Liberians. So we will leave you again with this song. Prof. I will say thank you. Have a safe weekend. Prof, any last words?
Yeah, well, in this world, make sure you find your corner and stick with it. Because we all, I don't care what happens, we all need to focus on legacies. We are talking about the legacy of Wilton Sankawulo, and we believe that if his name is mentioned, it's going to be solidly in the area of writing, and he did prove himself very well in that area, and we want to honor him and thank God that he walked at these very shows that we are working. So we have been happy to kind of discuss him, and may we all have time to discuss one another when the time comes as well.
Yes. Thank you. And we'll leave you with this song that whether we are from uptown or downtown, whether from north, south, east, or west, we're all Liberians.
Yes.
Have a safe weekend.
Yes.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.